This is the Hollywood Outsider, a weekly movie and TV podcast with a new episode every Thursday. And this week we are discussing upcoming releases, including Out of the Furnace and Inside Llewyn Davis. Our spoiler-free reviews of The Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and the soon-to-DVD Rise of the Fellowship. Our From the Outside In topic this week, why we love Man vs. the System movies and what our favorites are. We're going to have the latest in movie and TV news, as always, including our own trivia segments. My name is Aaron Peterson, and with me today are my fellow host, Scotty Clark.
Happy Thanksgiving Eve, Aaron.
By the time we listen to this, it'll be Christmas time.
Yeah, that's true.
Justin McCumber.
I'm ready for some pumpkin pie.
Oh, so am I.
Green bean casserole.
And that's awesome. You don't look that.
My wife told me that there is no green bean casserole at Thanksgiving this year. I told her we might as well cancel the whole thing.
Seriously, I would rather not have turkey.
Same here.
Or people, really.
Or people.
And Brian Williams.
I'm not a big green bean fan.
Hey, Brian.
I'd just rather have some dressing. Give me that. Just make me a big old pan of dressing, and I'm happy.
Now, let me ask you, do you have to have gravy on the dressing? Because some people can't have dressing without gravy.
Now, if it's made right, it's moist enough, and you don't have to worry about it.
That man speaks the truth.
I can't stand dressing.
Really?
Oh, God. Now, see, that's how I felt about green beans.
Mm.
Yeah.
Green bean casserole is fantastic.
I take cranberry sauce in a can over.
Who came
stuffing.
up with that genius idea? When something comes out and it just
I'm telling you, that shit's good.
Oh, God.
Love it. Now, I do make freshly made cranberry sauce, but you hand me a can and I will eat the shit out of that can.
Really?
Like with a spoon? You just
hell yes.
You just ladle it up?
Hell yes.
It's so tart. I just can't do it.
Like I might just try and wrap my lips around the can and just slowly eat it as it falls into my mouth.
Hang on a second. If you could you repeat that? And just do it with a little
Just give
little
you a
more
clean.
soul. Yeah.
I'm visualizing right now.
No.
Wow. Well, I guess everybody's... In case you haven't realized, we are recording a little bit early. You might be listening to this on Thanksgiving or after it. Or you might be on Black Friday. You might be waiting in line right now.
Yeah, exactly.
You're probably not going to get whatever it is you're in line for. Shh.
Now, how do you guys like your turkey? Some people like it, baked. Some like it fried. What's your favorite way for your turkey to be made?
I actually deep fried a turkey last year for the first time ever.
That's fantastic.
And it was really, really good. My only thing is that I chose a marinade that was like a garlic marinade that I didn't think went well with turkey. But as far as how moist that turkey was, it was the best turkey I've ever had. So I
would agree with you. Yeah, the couple of times that I've had a fried, deep fried turkey or whatever, it was just by far the best I've ever had.
It is pretty heavenly. Last year I made Thanksgiving turkey where we soaked it in a brine for about 4 days. And we're doing it again this year because it was a real big hit and really just juicy and incredibly tasty. But a deep fried turkey, that is something special.
Now, when you say brine, I immediately think pickles. Is it just heavily salted, or what do you do?
Well, no, it's a brine.
I held it in my butt for 4 days.
That's right. It's got some salt, some sugar, veggies cut up into it, water, some sage, rosemary, and just some other things. It's not a really, really salty brine. It's more, just kind of marinating in it for several days.
I feel like Rachel Ray is going to pop on this podcast any minute.
Or Paula Deen.
Oh, no. We don't want her on
Well,
here.
no racism. We're just talking the big buttery cooking.
She just
racism necessary for that.
All she has to do is show up, and I'm like, racism.
So sad.
What about Arnold Schwarzenegger? He's good eating. We're skipping.
Just carve off some of that breast meat.
It's a lot of dark meat.
I bet he's tasty.
We're cutting some of the bits out this week just to keep it a little bit shorter, which I'm sure we'll fail miserably at, but we're going to try. But he did release a new trailer for Sabotage, which I know Brian and I saw. I don't know if you guys caught it. But after he had like back-to-back flops this year, do you think he's done as an action hero outside of the Expendables series?
He's just more of a joke at this point, isn't he? I mean, I don't know.
Well, I think Sabotage looks good, and I actually liked Escape Plan, and I like... Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think this one, it's not, I don't think it's so much centered around him. I think it's centered more around his team. It's almost like, kind of like Predator.
Oh, don't you tease me.
He's the leader of this, this special force and everything. And this looks like the best Schwarzenegger movie in a long time. For me personally, but
I liked Escape Plan. I wish more people would have saw it. And Last Stand wasn't bad either. It's maybe not $10 at the theater good, but
For Sabotage, did they use the Beastie Boys song?
that's what I kept thinking the whole time I'm watching. I'm like, Sabotage.
How can you have an
was like,
action
no.
movie called Sabotage and not use the Beastie Boys song if it's an action movie?
Because they probably looked at it and said, not for Schwarzenegger, we're not. No rights here.
Can't understand it.
Remember, as you get ready to do your Black Friday shopping, go to thehollywoodoutsiders.com, click on one of those Amazon links, and shop and buy your stuff. It doesn't cost you anything extra, and it'll help the show. So we appreciate it, if you can. Brian, you had some breaking news that you saw.
Yeah, actually, just about the time that we kind of went to record here, some news came out that Steven Spielberg is courting Baz Luhrmann to direct his miniseries Napoleon, which I guess is based on Stanley Kubrick's screenplay that never came to fruition. So they're going to try to turn it in. I guess they're turning it into a some sort of a miniseries on HBO, and they want Baz Luhrmann. So apparently Napoleon's going to be singing and dancing.
I was going to say Napoleon and Baz Luhrmann just sounds very odd.
That is going to be the quirkiest Napoleon ever. And he's going to be fabulous.
That, and then you throw in screenplay by Kubrick. Mm-hmm. And
That's going to be
Yeah,
twisted.
it's going to be a mind fuck of the fountain.
Oh, don't you fucking... Oh! Now I don't want to see it. Thanks a lot.
well, and Steven
Great.
Spielberg's producing it.
Cloud Atlas meets Chicago.
Now you've got my attention.
Oh. And also, before we get into big movie news, Alice in Wonderland 2, May 27th, 2016. Get ready, because Johnny Depp's back, but Tim Burton is not, which I think is a plus for some people. And he's replaced by James Bobin. I don't really know him. I don't know if was anybody demanding a sequel to that ever?
Well, I think they were when the first one was made, considering the first Alice in Wonderland was a prequel to the story that everybody knows, right?
Yeah, sure.
So they kind of want to see the story that they all know on film.
I obviously made a ton of money, but wow.
Well, it does have Johnny Depp in it.
That doesn't seem to be doing much these days.
That's true, Lone Ranger.
Ask Tonto.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in remakes that are a little bit scary or a little bit awesome, I can't decide yet. Somebody please let me know. Can you believe they're taking a chance with a Roadhouse remake? The Roadhouse, the Patrick Swayze B-movie classic with throat kills, which are fantastic. It's being remade, and XXX the original Fast and the Furious director Rob Cohen is attached. What do you think, Brian?
I can't decide if I really like this idea or not. I like a lot of people. I love Roadhouse. I think to me it's the quintessential Patrick Swayze movie. I don't care what you think about Ghost or Dirty Dancing. This is what I think of when I think of Patrick Swayze. So
Pain
for
don't
me,
hurt.
I don't know. I don't know if I really like it. To me, this is a movie that really kind of just encapsulated the 80s almost perfectly. So I don't really know how well that would. I know it won't be a timepiece basically, but I just don't know how well it's going to translate nowadays. I don't know. I'm kind of nervous of this. You know, this Cohen guy, he did do XXX in the first Fast and the Furious movie, so he did kind of set the tone for the rest of the ones to follow. But he also did Alex Cross.
Good point.
So, you know, everybody's got their bad ones. I mean, so this one maybe is, but
See, I
I
kind
don't
of
know.
think
I'm a little scared.
this is one of those movies that I think is not a great movie by any way, shape, or form, but it's one that is so fun. And it's fun because of Patrick Swayze's the guy, Sam Elliott's, the other guy. It's fun because of the way it works out. It's not a movie you remake. It's a product of its time, like Brian said.
The double douche.
I think it's deuce, but we can call it whatever we want.
Well, no, that's what Sam Elliott called
That's
it when
what
he
Sam-
first pulled up.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Come on.
God.
I'm only in on this one as if they can get another Bigfoot truck and rampage it through a dealership. Then then I'm in.
What about you, Scott? Is that something you want to see?
I hesitate to say this, but I have not seen Roadhouse.
Oh my God, we have another fucking film school edition.
Never ever?
Never have seen Roadhouse. I've heard people talk about it. It's where he's a bouncer, right?
No, he is the
cooler.
Yeah, he's a cooler. Yeah, explain what a cooler
He's the best cooler in the business.
Cooler, as in like Vegas tables cooler? Or?
No.
Oh, god damn.
Justin, explain exactly what we're talking about here, so Mr. Scott Clark. Well, I check and see if it's on Netflix.
In Roadhouse, Patrick Swayze plays a cooler who is a guy that will train the bouncer staff of a bar and take a bar that had been, kind of being overtaken by bad element and, restore some law and order into that place. And along comes a guy, I forget his name, but he owns the Double Deuce, which has, kind of fallen on some bad times because of negative elements in the area. And he hires the best damn cooler in the business to come in and save his roadhouse.
Does he also do deep core drilling or?
No deep core drilling necessary in this movie. And so Patrick Swayze goes out there and
teaches them how to be nice.
That's right. Teaches them how to be nice until it's time to not be nice.
I didn't know Sam Elliott was in this movie yet.
He is, and he has one of the best lines I've ever heard in a movie is, that gal's got entirely too many brains to have an ass like that.
It's Aaron said that it's not a good movie, but it's highly entertaining. To me, that's what makes a movie good. If I'm entertained, then it's good. I'm not going to put some kind of special qualifiers on what is good and bad. If I left a movie having had fun and entertained, then to me it is a good movie. And Roadhouse is an endlessly entertaining movie. Sometimes because of what it does, and sometimes in spite of what it does.
Well, it is on Netflix, Scott, so I guess we've got a whole movie for you.
Hey, I don't have to spend $4 on it.
1 minute review. Wow, that's bitter. 1 minute review next week. Watch Roadhouse.
All right, we'll do.
And Mike.
In fact, hold on.
Oh, boy.
The DVD for Roadhouse, I think even the Blu-ray comes with a
Kevin Smith's
commentary track with Kevin Smith and Scott Mosier.
Yeah, and it's actually really funny.
Really?
Yeah, it's really funny. And Mike Brudnell put on our Facebook page that he's not for it unless he thinks we can recast it and convince him. Because without Patrick Swayze and Sam Elliott, he's not sure if he cares.
That might be a good recasting the classics for the next person. I don't know.
Let's see if we can do a better one for the next.
Considering it's my week.
I already got yours is already picked, sir. Yours is already picked. Let's go to Tolkien. Looks to be finally getting his own film back. Tolkien.
Tolkien. What is he, a Star Trek character?
I was going to say, it sounded like Tusken Raider or something.
Tolkien?
Was that your Chewbacca?
J.R.R. Tolkien.
Was that your Chewbacca?
J.R.R. Tolkien. Shut up! J.R.R. Tolkien.
Tolkien, but not Tolkien.
See, guys, this is what I have to deal with on a regular basis. J.R.R. Tolkien looks to finally be getting his own film biography. This is a guy I personally would love to hear more of, sincerely. And to know how he came up with this huge world that he came up with. People love their Lord of the Rings, but how much do you guys think they will actually want to go to a theater and see the man behind the vision?
Well, it depends on how they're going to do it. Now, the Los Angeles Times reported that Fox Searchlight is looking to develop this biopic, and they're going to examine the author's life, particularly his formative years at Pembroke College and as a soldier in World War I and how all that kind of influenced his work. So, if they focus on, probably the more exciting elements of his life, especially World War I, which I know and most people know went directly into influencing Lord of the Rings. I mean, you can see Sauron and the orcs and goblins and all of that if you were to see some of those World War I battles. So, I'm always leery of biopics because they tend to want to over-amplify maybe how exciting or dangerous a person's life has been. And so I hope that they don't do that with Tolkien, but I would personally be very interested in finding out, what was it about his life that caused him to create Middle Earth and all the characters and races that inhabit it. I do hope as well that they have someone playing, oh my God, I'm completely spacing on his name, wrote The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. C.S. Lewis. I'm hoping that C.S. Lewis will be a quote-unquote character in this biopic because the two of them had a deep friendship and a bit of a rivalry, and I'd like to see if that's brought in. But it is worth noting, though, that once upon a time there was another project like this but it ran aground because of troubles with his estate. We don't know how his estate will be with this one, so it's kind of wait to see how the lawyers hash things out.
Well, it'll be a biography, and I think if they do it, they should be able to squeak it through. I hope, as long as they don't make it too angry, maybe they won't get sued. But with his popularity right now would be the time to do it. Well, I mean, the first trilogy would have been a perfect time, but obviously they couldn't get it going with the estate. I really want to see this. I would love to see more about his life, and I don't want to have to read about it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh, because God.
Exactly.
Reading.
I'm too busy reading Justin McCumber books. I don't have time.
All right, you'll be getting more soon.
I know. Well, we'll talk about that.
More that you won't read.
Don't let me close the show without bringing that up, by the way.
Oh, he won't.
Yeah.
I think it's.
I wish I could say fuck you, but you're absolutely right.
When you're right, you're right.
And guess what? Kick-Ass's Aaron Taylor Johnson and Elizabeth Olsen, one of the Olsen sisters, not the one that did all those cute little videos. She was the one that apparently was older and neglected. They've officially been confirmed for Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch in Avengers: Age of Ultron.
No, wait a minute. What are you? That Olsen sister?
She's not one of the Full House twins. She's like the third one, the one that never. She's like the one that was
not know that.
babysitting them. Yeah,
really,
she's really an Olsen sister.
Huh. I had no clue. Anyway, I had to look her up because I had never heard of her. She was in that movie Silent House, which I never saw, but that was the one that was in, if you guys remember, that was that horror flick that was supposedly done in one shot. Mm-hmm. And she's also in the upcoming Old Boy.
Which is not playing in a theater near us.
Not playing around here. Oh, my God, I'm so upset. I have to drive like an hour and a half or 2 hours to go see that movie.
Anyway, go ahead.
Aaron Taylor Johnson, we all know from Kick-Ass, and he was also in Savages, which was surprisingly good till the very end. I had to actually do some research because I had never heard of Quicksilver or Scarlet Witch. I didn't read comic books like these guys. But they're apparently a brother-sister duo who were the spawn of Magneto. They originally appeared in the X-Men series. I think it was like the fourth episode or something like that. Or fourth
issue.
Thank you. They were eventually recruited by Iron Man to be part of the Avengers, which is where they play into the Avengers. So to me, it's interesting because they were originally from the X-Men that maybe we'll see a little bit more connection of some of the Marvel franchises. To me, that's a tease that we're going to see a lot more of that cross-pollination of multiple people from different Marvel properties. So
you're exactly right. That's one of those little bridges that they could use to, bring Fox and Disney together for for some crossover action. I of course, we've talked about it a number of times before, but I'm definitely all for it.
Well, I don't know how they're going to handle the origin of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch because they don't own the character of Magneto, and so they can't put Magneto in their film. So I'm not quite sure what they're going to do with that. And it is worth noting that in Days of Future Past, they've got their own Quicksilver. So, they're already kind of handling that character on their end of things. And cross-pollinating, I just don't know if this is going to be that film and these characters that are going to allow this to happen. I'm curious to see how these characters are going to do in the next Avengers. But I do start to worry that we're going to get into a case of having, far too many heroes on the screen and how are they all going to be serviced?
I'm really more curious about the point that you brought up about Magneto because I know that they can't show Magneto, but can they mention him? I mean, legally, I don't know what the legalities. None of us do, really.
No, I don't know.
But I'm really curious.
I'm sure they could. They'll come up with some clever way of kind of making a nod towards him. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, that's probably true.
See, here's where I get frustrated with this whole thing because I understand that the comic book movies are just huge right now. Marvel's making 4 of them next year or 4 or 5?
47, many. I think at last count. Yeah.
At some point, people are going to get tired of it, whether you like it or not. They're
You've
going
been
to get
saying
tired
that for like 3 or 4 years, man.
I understand, but it's gonna dry out at some point. As a last ditch effort, you're going to have to all come together. I mean, that's. It's going to
When we're
have
scraping
to
the bottom of the barrel, they're all going to have to.
I think we're a ways away from scraping, but we do have Ant-Man coming. But
got Nicolas Cage playing Iron Man.
Ooh.
You shut your face.
Oh, I can see it.
Casper Van Dien playing Thor or something like that.
You can see Nicolas Cage right before he puts
A
the
little
helmet
part of
down.
me just died, Brian.
Let's ride, and then puts the helmet down and flies off.
Oh god, we just made the worst Marvel movie ever.
Recasting the classics.
Oh, God, we should be fired already. We haven't even started yet. So how's this for a movie? Will Smith, Denzel Washington, directed by Adam McKay, who's done many Will Smith flicks, and a remake of Uptown Saturday Night, because it's in the works and both actors are committed if it can be filmed by summer.
I've never heard of this movie.
What? It's a Bill Cosby classic.
I saw Ghost Dad.
I don't care. I'm just saying I've never heard of it. I've liked Bill Cosby. I've had a lot of his stand-up, tapes and stuff, but I've just, I guess I just wasn't very savvy with the Bill Cosby movies, but it sounds funny as hell. What is it? A couple of guys sneak out to go to an illegal club one night, and the club is robbed, and they have to turn over their wallets. Turns out one of them realizes that he's got a winning lottery ticket in it, and so they try to get it back. Mm-hmm. So, sounds like lots of hijinks.
And Will Smith and Denzel Washington. Just those two together make me want to see it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I love it. There's two of my favorite actors, man. As long as Jaden's not in it.
You did mention that Adam McKay had directed Will Smith before.
Or Will Ferrell. I'm sorry, Will Ferrell.
I was about to say, it's like, I'm not quite sure where you're getting that from.
I just make up facts now.
You are.
We're established. I just make shit up.
I'm trying to think of a Will Smith movie that was a comedy in a long
that was
After Earth.
I mean,
Hitch.
After Earth.
After Earth.
Oh yeah,
The
Hitch.
Bad Boys.
Men in
movies
Black,
had quite a
technically,
bit
I
of
guess.
comedy.
Yeah,
in
it was an
those.
action comedy. Hitch was a kind of guy. He's a very comedic guy. Denzel Washington can be funny, but he's usually the straight guy.
He's the same guy in every movie.
Denzel Washington?
Mm-hmm.
I disagree, sir. Denzel Washington is a fantastic actor. Racist.
But Adam McKay, we know him from, Anchorman 2. He's been doing some of the Kenny Powers stuff, Eastbound and Down. He did Step Brothers. The guy's, Talladega Nights. He did the original Anchorman. The dude knows how to make a funny movie. So if the movie's in his hands, I feel pretty good about it.
And seriously, Denzel Washington, Will Ferrell, they're hand in hand, comedic-wise. Yeah. Same kind of talent. Now, the zombie genre is still not dead, because Day of the Dead, one of the last untouched Romero classics, is being remade by the director of House at the End of the Street, Mark Tanderi.
I'm not quite sure why you call it untouched, because they actually rebooted this one back in 2008.
Oh, all right.
And what's interesting enough, it's by the same company. Back in 2008, Millennium Films did a remake, and it starred Mina Suvari and Nick Cannon, of all people.
This
but I
is
guess
why
Is this the one that had Ving Rhames in it too?
No, that was,
I don't know if because I looked it up at IMDb. I didn't see his name attached to it, but he may have had a bit.
Because
part.
if I'm not mistaken, that one wasn't really a remake of the actual movie. That was more. It was called Day of the Dead, but it wasn't really a remake. But I could be wrong. Someone, a fan, will tell me. I'm sure.
Well, this new one is also by Millennium Films, and they want Mark Tondera to direct it. Now, he did House at the End of the Street, which I didn't see. Who amongst us saw that one?
I saw that one.
I saw it.
Do you think the direction in that one, remind me of your review, was the direction in that competent?
I just want to point out Jennifer Lawrence in a white tee. That influenced
Okay,
my
that's
vote.
not direction.
Yes, it was.
It was two directions.
Scott. Yes, he did okay. He really did okay. He did nothing that impressed me though. He didn't do a very good job capturing the atmosphere, which is really important in that kind of movie. I think he just did an okay job. The movie I think it was a 6 is what I gave it, something like that.
It was good but easily forgettable.
Yes. Yep.
Well, then that may also follow Day of the Dead, because that's who they want to direct it. Now, the script was written by Lars Jacobson, who I've never heard of, and I actually didn't even think to look him up. Yeah, I don't know. I'm so tired of remaking his films, and by him I do mean Romero. They just, I don't know. I mean, we're doing other interesting kind of zombie things. Do we actually have to redo his stuff? Just leave it the fuck alone.
And the
make
problem with doing his is they'd never capture the social satire that was part of his films. I'll give you maybe Dawn of the Dead because they made a really exciting action zombie flick.
Well, that was more an action film than a satire of, our rampant consumerism turning us into mindless drones.
Right, and that's what these are missing. And I can't.
That was about dead babies,
That was pretty cool, though. You got to admit, dead babies rock. Wait. Well, that's going to give you a poster.
Well, there's
Dead Babies Rock. Aaron Peterson.
All emails to feedback.
All of you pro-lifers.
Dead
So anyway,
zombie
I'm not
babies
excited by
rock.
this.
Yeah, it doesn't strike my fancy. Well, Hollywood Reporter ran it was a great piece. If you can go to Hollywood Reporter, you can find it, on animals that are getting harmed making films. And if you guys are interested, I'll put a link in the show notes on the website so you can see it. But what it leads me to ask you, in this day and age with special effects where they are, and you can make almost anything look realistic, should we just stop putting animals in harm's way to begin with?
I'm the wrong person to ask this question because when you read this article, they show all these horrible pictures about animals being abused or neglected or bad things happen to them on the set. Mm-hmm. Do I think that animals should be harmed? No. Absolutely not. It's not right. Do I think that animals need to be not used in films? There's no way. I mean, we talk about horror movies and using practical effects versus CG effects. To me, this is the same kind of thing. When you have digital animals or digital beasts in a movie, it looks like it's fake. I mean, if someone can police it and make sure that they're taken care of and that kind of thing, that's fine. But to me, I'm taken out of it when they don't use real animals. It drives me crazy that this is a big deal. How hard is it to take care of animals? We've all had pets. We've all had. I mean, you take care of them, feed them, make sure they're not hurt, that kind of thing. I mean, it just drives me crazy that these kind of things. Not that I'm not saying it's a good thing that animals get harmed and that kind of thing, but that is like that big of a deal. I'll bet you that more people know about animals getting hurt in film production than they do someone like is it Brandon Lee? Is that his name? Mm-hmm. From The Crow, who was actually killed on a movie set. So a human being, but animals.
Well, the difference being, Scott, that a human being wants to be there, asked to be there, is paid to be there. You put a horse in a movie, that horse didn't ask to be there. It didn't want to be there, and it doesn't have near the thinking capacity that a Brandon Lee has. So if you're going to put a bunch of animals in a film, it's incumbent on you to make sure that you take care of those animals and see to it that they're not hurt, because they don't have the mentality of a human being. They don't even have one of a child. They're just animals. We put them in there for our entertainment, and so therefore they should be, cared for and make sure that they're not hurt to entertain us.
I'm not disagreeing with that. The fact that when how we take care of animals is analyzed more closely than how we take care of our human actors, or not even necessarily how they're taken care of in the film, but more people know about the animals that are hurt in the film.
I see what you're saying. It has more visibility.
Yeah. People are looking more closely at how animals are treated in a film than the safety of human actors. And that bothers me when people focus so much on that. Granted, there's not a large amount of human deaths in movies.
Well, actually, there is an amount of them. There's definitely a significant injury. So do you guys think that in this day and age we should stop doing practical stunts and say people and animals, wherever anybody can be put in? Should we stop putting people in actual danger when there's so much that can be done with computer effects?
No, I mean, if you've got professional people doing their job, then I keep letting them do that. I mean, take a look at a film like Django Unchained, when they had that whole scene with I don't know how many horses there were, and that trailer exploding and all these horses kind of falling over. That was a huge scene. Not one horse was hurt or harmed in the making of that film, because they had competent people who knew exactly what they were doing. So if you've got this kinds of people working, if an animal gets hurt on accident, sure, it's going to happen. Nobody's going to say that it's not. But if you got right people there doing what they're supposed to be doing, then if an animal does get hurt, then sorry, accidents do happen.
I didn't read the article, so I'm not sure exactly about what all it covers. But yeah, I mean, if you watch the credits, most of the I don't know, maybe they just put it in there just out of habit or something, but there's always some sort of little note at the bottom of the credits that says no animals were harmed in the making of this movie. And there may be, scenes of a horse losing its head or a dog being run over by a truck or something like that. And, and it's, so I don't know. Obviously, they didn't just throw a dog under the truck, but
maybe.
Depends on your budget.
It really does.
Can't afford the vet bill. So I don't know. I don't know how rampant it is. So I don't know. I hope it's not like an epidemic type of thing, but I can't see it being with as many unions, and there's so many freaking people that have got their hands involved with movies now that I just can't see it being that big of a deal. I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong, but I just don't see it being that big of a deal because if somebody, if animals are constantly getting hurt and mistreated, stuff like that, there's so many people with smartphones and everything nowadays that somebody, word would get out.
Well, there are some pictures in the article
of actual
some pretty
injuries.
graphic pictures.
Yeah. And I guess what I would say I actually agree with Justin, and I don't like doing that. But I'm a firm believer of the animal doesn't have the same capacity that a human does. We're dumb. We make decisions all the time that are stupid. We do daily. But an animal...
You do it like minutely.
Yeah, like minute. Like I do it right now. I just did one. I don't even know what it was, and I did it. But an animal, you put an animal in harm's way, there's a lot of stunts that one minor mishap can cause that animal to suffer severely. I mean, look at a horse, breaks its leg, you have to put it down. I mean, there's so many small things that can happen. And I think anything that would put an animal's life, even remotely in question, or their health in question, because of the fact that we're supposed to be humane, they should be removed. If a special effect can be done, I think it should be done, even if it takes away from the film itself. Find another way to shoot that scene, something like that. I don't think animals should be harmed for our perusement, I guess. That's kind of what I would say.
It's not like it's not like they have to be hurt in order to make the film happen.
No, but I'm saying if they put them, because what the article is explaining, that animals are put in harm's way and then bad things happen to them, because if they wouldn't have been put in that position, that wouldn't have happened. There are some things, like a stampede. There's a good chance an animal's going to get hurt in a stampede because you're causing a bunch of animals to run in unison in a herd, and one of them could trample the other one. One of the lesser ones could get trampled, something like that. So those things can be done with special effects. So instead of taking the chance of hurting an animal, why not do it with a special effect? It might not look as clean and as good, but there's no chance of an animal getting hurt that way.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, at the same time, a stunt is more entertaining to watch when you know that it's a real stunt.
That's true.
Than if it is a CG digital effect that you can tell that it's not that real actor's face and that kind of thing. I understand that the animal doesn't have the choice to, sure, I'll do that. You can pay me this much money to do that.
That would be fantastic.
I want extra oats.
A couple apples in there. But
I mean, like Game of Thrones, they had that episode where Brienne is in that arena with a bear.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She was really in there with that. So that would look fairly odd if it was CGI.
Mm-hmm. She's just fighting a cardboard.
Someone's behind it, moving it and making noises.
There's someone in a bear suit.
I want a picnic basket. All right. Well, that's kind of where we think about.
I think we beat that dead horse, haven't we?
Yeah.
Oh.
Too soon?
Da-da-da-da-da. All right. Well, you can tweet us at H_outsider. Like us on Facebook.com/The Hollywood Outsider. Leave a message or text us at 818-81-AMAHO or 818-814-6246. You can email us at feedback@TheHollywoodOutsider.com. We're going to skip trailers this week. There really wasn't anything big out. But next week, Amazing Spider-Man 2's trailer comes out. So, man, I hope it's out before our show. Let's go to the big screen. We're going to review The Hunger Games, Catching Fire. And since I wrote the review on the website, you can read what I thought. I'm going to abstain for most of this. Justin, Brian, and Scott are going to handle it, just to keep it a little shorter. So, Justin, take it away.
Good luck.
If I interrupt, suck it up.
All right. Well, The Hunger Games Catching Fire. This one has a new director at the helm, Francis Lawrence. It stars, of course, Jennifer Lawrence, Josh Hutcherson, Liam Hemsworth, yada, yada, yada. In this movie, our young Katniss, after winning the Hunger Games with her
Did you have to struggle to remember what she won?
Yeah, fuck, sorry.
Marathon.
I've been watching a lot of movies lately.
God, what was it, guys? What was it?
The World Cup.
She won something.
So she won the Super Bowl with her, supposed love interest in PETA, played by Josh Hutcherson, and the two of them go back home to find their, to go live in their new homes in Victory Village. Life is kind of the same as it's always been, but right before they go on a little victory tour of the districts, Katniss has a meeting with the president, and the president says that he's not buying it. He knows exactly what she did, and because she was able to get one over on the Capitol, that's started this rebellious outbreaks across some of the districts, and he wants her help to put a stop to it. She pledges to do so, and then the film follows her attempt to do that, and then, of course, into yet another Hunger Game. Guys, as the second in a trilogy, normally this is where you get a lot of your meat, a lot of your grist for the mill. It's usually the most exciting of the stories. What did you guys think of this one, especially compared to the first one? Did you feel like it had a lot more emotion to it? Did you feel like the action scenes were up to par? Overall, what were your thoughts on the story for Catching Fire?
I will say that very rarely do I have few complaints about how things were handled compared to how the book was. This is one of the best film adaptations of a book I have ever seen. I struggled to think of anything that I thought was handled poorly outside of maybe some action sequences that, which we'll cover in the production section. But the emotion and everything was vastly superior to the original film. It really, it felt like a completely different film, just with the same characters all around it. It was so well put together. I did not feel like it was a 2.5 hour movie at all. It went by so fast, and I saw a later showing as well. I cannot say enough good things about it. Brian, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of got to echo a lot of that myself here. I like that the story is evolving. It's not just rehashing the arena. Mm-hmm. That's a component of it. The romantic angle is a component of it. It's not solely about that. Although those two things really get most of the hype and the exposure. It's really about a lot more than that. And I like where the story, where the story's apparently going. Mm-hmm. So I'm like you, Scott. It was 2.5 hours that flew by. This is the first movie that I've just totally lost track of time, and honestly had no idea the movie was wrapping up whenever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't want to shit on Gary Ross, who was the writer and the director of the first Hunger Games film, but Scott, you're absolutely right. This film feels so much different than the first one, and it honestly feels so much more competent. It feels more full. It feels more realized. I really cannot say enough good things about how this story was brought to the screen. Quite often movies fail when they're adapted to the screen. I'm sorry, books fail to be adapted properly because they want to try and put as much of that story into it as they can. And I think that what Simon Beaufoy, who was the screenwriter for this film, and Michael Arndt, what they did is they took the core elements of what made the story good. They presented those things, and then the rest of it, they just kind of either implied or they just tossed it. Mm-hmm. But they did, in the tossing of it, they didn't lose anything. They just were able to hone in on what was really important in this film, and what was really important was the emotional relationships, between Katniss and PETA, between Katniss
Gail.
and, her other love interest, Gail. Those two relationships are important. And in this film, you really see her struggle with her feelings towards both those guys. You see the guys knowing about the other, and, both of them with their hearts on their sleeves. But it was really just so well done. But you can't have a great film without having great actors giving it to you. What did you guys think of the cast in this one? It's largely the same as the first one. There are some new additions, but largely the main characters are still the main characters. Did their performances feel as improved or different from the first one as we felt like the story was?
I think Jennifer Lawrence is already a really good actress in the first film, but she seems to have matured, and not just her own character like the character did in the books, but she seems to have just carried that role that much further and not over the top, but in a really good way. There's a scene where she exchanges this look with President Snow while they're riding the chariot that she just burns through him almost, and it's just so good. I think one of the ones that impressed me the most was Josh Hutcherson, who plays Peeta, because in the first film I thought he was just okay. He seemed a little bit cheesy, and there's some scenes in this movie. One scene in particular where he is speaking very to the point, matter-of-factly to Katniss when they're on a train, and I was like, he had me from the get-go. At that point on, I was like, all right, Peeta's the real deal now in this movie.
He had you at hello?
He had me at hello. But he really made me believe that he was stuck in the middle of his feelings for Katniss and her unwillingness to be romantically involved with anybody. And he just that look of defeat on his face, he really sold me on that. How did you feel about that, Brian?
Yeah, I've not been a fan of this kid, and I have no legitimate reason for it. But I don't know what it is about him. He just rubs me the wrong way for whatever reason, and everything he does, except this one here. This movie, he just kind of like you. Maybe it's just like the way his facial expressions or the little sarcasm that he has when he's kind of working with Katniss and explaining things to her and how kind of how the system works and that kind of stuff. For him, in my view of him, he just took a huge leap forward. But for me, my favorite actor in the whole movie is Stanley Tucci.
What?
Really?
As Caesar. That over the top, big teeth, wearing purple hair.
You can almost see a little hint of craziness.
Yep.
He is just he cracks me up. So
yeah, I like him as well.
Yeah, I like them all. Jennifer Lawrence, she is, like Scott said, well proven herself to be a fantastic actress. She was in the first one. Liam Hemsworth had a little more to do in this one. I didn't really feel like he did too much more than he had to. He was fine. But I do have to agree, Josh Hutcherson went from being a guy that I actively disliked in the first film to actually really liking and rooting for in this film. Because for too long, though, I kind of felt like he was playing either the victim or, having to be saved too often. He needed to be a little bit more action and less reaction. But towards the end of it, he really did that, and he did it quite well. So I liked him quite a bit. But two people that I want to make sure we don't leave out. I think Elizabeth Banks, Effie was fantastic. I mean, you could really see the pain in her face and in her voice when she had to send her charges off. I thought, she did a phenomenal job for such an over-the-top kind of role that you could easily get cartoony with. And, she did when she needed to, but she also brought the emotion when she needed to. But Sam Claflin, who played Finnick, I thought he also did a really, really good job. I knew the book, I'd read it, so I knew where his character was going. But for a while there, he actually I'd forgotten that. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, this guy's a real danger to her. Of course, we won't spoil anything, but I thought he did a really great job. But all in all, there wasn't a weak actor in the bunch. They were all just firing on all cylinders. I was really quite impressed.
There's one I wanted to mention really quick too that I think number one, I think he's an underrated actor, but Jeffrey Wright, who played Beatty, who is the Volts character, Nuts and Bolts, who's the crazy guy, the quirky, intelligent guy.
Oh yeah, the guy from Casino Royale.
Royale, yeah. He's almost exactly how I imagined that character from the book. It was spot on.
Both of them.
Yeah, both of them really. Just so good.
Yeah, just really, really well done. So let's talk about the special effects, the production
hang on,
quality.
before you move on. I do want to say, Donald Sutherland and Philip Seymour Hoffman. Donald Sutherland's been a bad guy in everything, but here I can almost hear him slither.
Yeah.
You know, that's how snaky and vindictive and manipulative he is in this movie. Loved every second of it.
He felt like a villain in this one.
Yeah, he felt like Darth Vader. I mean, in the first one, he was kind of like this backseat presence that you saw every now and then. You know he's a bad guy just because it's Donald Sutherland. This one, you felt, man, he's going to rip the world apart if she doesn't do exactly. He made you understand why she had to do what she has to do, and also Hutcherson. I would say that his role, how he plays it, is pivotal to the movie. And in terms of if he doesn't play his role strongly, you just cannot understand her plight. And in the first movie, if he would have played it the same way, I would have left the movie in the middle. I swear to God, because he drove me insane in the first. As much as I liked the movie, his character drove me insane. Here, I don't know if he took acting lessons, whatever the kid did. Kudos to him, because man, impressed the crap out of me. And also Woody Harrelson, nobody mentioned him. Funny as hell, as
He's
always.
so good as Haymitch.
And I'm sorry, keep going, Justin.
Well, he didn't have as much to do in this film as he did the first one either, but everybody involved, even Lenny Kravitz's small little bit, I thoroughly enjoyed. But speaking of Lenny Kravitz's Cena character, in the first film, one of the scenes that really should have been beautiful and I think ended up looking kind of poor, as though they didn't have enough money for the special effects, was the whole dress turning into this flaming these flaming garments as they went through their little parade. And to me, that was it spoke to the overall quality of the film, that it looked like it was really trying, but it wasn't quite making it where I wanted it to be. In this film, of course, they have another scene where their clothes have to change. It looked so much better. And to me, that bump up in quality was all over the film, including the directing. So for you guys, did you think that, in this area, that it was also a vast improvement over the first one as far as the directing, the special effects, and just the overall look of the film?
Yeah, I did. It looks like they kind of invested maybe a little bit more money or something in it. They you see a little bit more of the, of the Capitol, with the events that took place inside the arena were more grand than the first one, and it all worked. So it definitely, but it also worked without being really kind of over the top and distracting. So I thought it was spot on. Unlike the Twilight series that I won't go into again, but yeah, needless to say, with all the money they made, they could have amped up their special effects budget.
This movie really makes the first movie look like it was a total risk, because like it just seems like they put very little money into the first movie. Everything just looks polished. The special effects, even the CG stuff that's going on, just looked leaps and bounds ahead of the last movie. The clothes that they wore in the Capitol, they looked similar, but still also remained fresh, because there's always like costume changes and that kind of thing with the people in there. It just looked incredible. The force field kind of stuff looked fresh. I really liked it. Vastly improved over the original, just like the story.
All right. Well, I almost wish that they could go back and redo the first one with this director, and I think with the confidence that they've gained in the franchise through really accomplishing something special in this one. Again, I enjoyed the first one well enough. But, this is kind of an Empire Strikes Back level of improvement over the first one. And I almost kind of wish the first one could be given this level of quality. It's astounding on every front just how good this movie was. I mean, we don't even get to the Capitol until probably 2/3 of the way into this movie. I mean, they spend a lot of time developing the relationships that these characters have with each other and really developing the stakes, letting the audience know just what the danger is and what these characters are about. By the time they finally reached the Capitol and the Hunger Games started, I was almost like, good Lord, this movie should be almost over. But it didn't feel like it was dragging at all. The tempo was just, again, amazing. I'm so impressed with this film. Guys, with a price of $1 to $10, what would you give this film, Scotty?
If I had to give it a score out of $10, I would give it a $9.50.
Wow.
I found very little wrong with this movie. I vastly improved over the last one, like I said, multiple times now.
And yet you're going to keep saying it.
I expected to like this movie. I did not expect to love it. Mm-hmm. I thought it was going to be more of the same, and it really blew me away. And for a 2.5-hour movie to make me want to watch it again right away and get me that excited for the next film, that hasn't happened to me in a long time.
There's been a lot of movies I've liked, but none of had me walk away with the feeling I had watching this one. Like I said, totally lost track of time. And a lot of movies, you kind of get that vibe that the movie's wrapping up, and I had no idea that was coming until the last scene was pretty obvious. But again, really love this movie a lot more than what I expected. I've got to give it a 9.5 also.
Wow. I'm going to give this a $9 out of 1 out of $10. The only reason I don't go more than that is because I want to leave room for the third book, which is being split into 2 films. I want to leave myself some room to be even more impressed. And I feel like if I go too high now, and the second one or the other 2 that are coming are even better and better, hell, where do I leave myself room? But I don't think a 9.
Let me ask you this: Would you score Return of the Jedi higher than Empire Strikes Back?
Well, no.
So it is possible the second movie could be better than all the others.
It could be, but I honestly feel like a 9 out of 10 is a pretty good score for this movie. I enjoyed it in just about every possible way. Impressed with every single performance given in it. I fuck it. 9.5. Let's just do it. All 3 of us will all stand around and give it, because it's really, like you guys have said, I was shocked when it was over just how good it was.
And we can really move on because we've been talking about this way too long. But you can read my review on the website, but ultimately what I thought was the first half, it's kind of a quasi-remake. It's still a very good film. I give it an 8.50 out of 10, just because the first half I thought was a little repetitive, but after that it really made up the difference. So, all right, now let's go to box office, where the winner of our Catching Fire contest is Jonathan Spears. So congratulations, Jonathan. We'll be in touch to see what size of T-shirt you want and where you want it sent. We actually got quite a few entries, and some of them were really close. But Jonathan, he got it within a few million, so good for him.
What was his guess?
His was 165 million. There was a 168 as well. That was really close, but the final total was 158.
Very good. Now, did we have Price is Right rules? We're closest without going over?
No, just closest. Closest. Whoever was in the closest arena.
So nobody guessed $1?
No. Nobody did. And that's why I didn't put it on Facebook, because somebody would be like, I guess 161.1. Keep an eye on Facebook next month. We're going to have a few more contests to say Merry Christmas with some Ho T-shirts. And
nothing says Christmas like hose.
Ho. There's a lot of politicians that would agree with that statement. Now, the actual box office. Jennifer Lawrence continues her hot streak as Catching Fire set the box office ablaze with $158 million. Biggest November opening ever. But it did sell less actual tickets than the original Hunger Games opening a year and a half ago. Because of inflation, so not by much, just by a hair. But overseas is another story, as it opened to $138 million, almost doubling the last film's openings. So it only made $200 and some million total overseas, and it's already halfway there. So it's going to be a much bigger hit overseas. Thor is headed back to Asgard. His movie dropped to $14 million for a $167 million total. Best Man Holiday, they took a vacation to a $12.4 million, $50 million total. Delivery Man was aborted. Vince Vaughn, he's officially the man-child nobody wants with a $7.9 million opening. He is done. I mean, that's bad. And Freebirds is still flying in number 5 with $5.3 million for a $48.6 million total. I'm sure somebody is going to take their kids to see the Thanksgiving Day cartoon.
That makes sense.
It does. And it's really funny.
All right, guys, we have got 3 films we're going to be talking about this week, all of them opening up on December 6th. The first one, The Last Days of Mars. Now, some of you may remember that I reviewed this, about a month ago? Give or take?
Yes, you did. Yep.
Somewhere around there. I don't remember what score it was I gave it. It wasn't a great score because it's not all that great of a movie, but we'll discuss it here. A group of astronauts exploring Mars succumb one by one to a mysterious and terrifying force while collecting specimens. This was directed by Ruiri Robinson. Never heard of him. Stars Liev Schreiber, who's really the only actor on this movie that you'll probably recognize right off the bat. Scotty, I know you have not seen this yet. I don't know if you're a big fan of these Mars-type movies. We've had several of them. Mars looks kind of like a dangerous place in pretty much all of them. Do you think this is one you might want to see, or do you remember my review and think, give it a pass?
I do remember your review, but it's hard for me to shy away from these kind of movies. This is my kind of movie. It feels like a less claustrophobic Alien in that there's a little bit of mystery going on, but you're also kind of confined to a smaller space. And I really like Liev Schreiber. He's one of those actors that I'm always surprised whenever I see him pop up in a film, and I'm like, why don't I watch more movies with him? Because I find him really entertaining. I don't expect it to be well, especially after what you said about it, but I still kind of want to check it out, but it probably won't be in the theater.
What about the rest of you?
No interest. That's all I got to say.
Brian, I mean, we're getting crickets.
Not much of an interest. I like Liev Schreiber, so I like him enough to where I'll give it a shot. But other than that, it's not exactly compelling looking.
The second film is Inside Llewyn Davis. This is directed by the Coen brothers. It's listed as a music drama. I have to say I've not actually seen even the trailer for this, so I'm not quite sure what the movie is about, but it stars Oscar Isaac, Carey Mulligan, Justin Timberlake, Ethan Phillips, and I'm looking down the rest of these people. Yeah, John Goodman. So it's got some decent folk in it. A week in the life of a young singer as he navigates the Greenwich Village folk scene of 1961. Aaron, any interest in this musical drama?
Still on no, got nothing. I wish I had more to say on these, but this is the week release week of the year, if there ever was one. So no, I'm 0, maybe 5%. 5% of me would go see it.
What about you, Brian? Any interest in this one?
I'm in the same boat. I've really got no interest at all in this movie.
What about you, Scotty?
This is one of those movies that looks like I should be all over it. It's about music. It's got Justin Timberlake in it. You know, it's got everything that I would be interested in. It looks kind of boring to me. I really hope I'm wrong. It's one I'll check out eventually, but there's nothing about the trailer that says I need to go see this right away. And I usually like the Coen brothers too, but it just looks very slow and dragged on. So yep. I'll pass it on.
That's what I think about it.
Well, I'm actually kind of surprised that I never watched a trailer for this. And I like the Coen brothers quite a bit, and I like a lot of the actors that are in this. So I can't say whether I'm interested or not because I really should have watched a trailer for it. I'm going to reserve judgment on this one. All right, the last one. Do what?
Didn't we talk about it in Brian's Trailer Park before? I know I've seen the trailer before.
I don't think we didn't talk about that one.
No?
I never watched the trailers either. I'm not just making shit up. Our last film is called Out of the Furnace. Now, this one is directed by Scott Cooper, and it stars Christian Bale, Casey Affleck, Zoe Saldana. It is when Rodney Blaze mysteriously disappears. And what kind of a name is Rodney Bays? Sorry, I was like, it was Blaze. I'm like, what kind of fucking character
His
are we
brother
writing?
Johnny.
Yeah. When Rodney Bays mysteriously disappears and law enforcement fails to follow through, his older brother, Russell, takes matters into his own hands to find justice. Out of the three films that we have discussed, I think this one probably has the best chances of being of most interest to us. But, Brian, what do you think? Does this look like something you're interested in?
Actually, yeah. Casey Affleck looks like a beast.
Yeah.
So I've got some interest in this one, for sure.
What about you, Aaron? You interested at all?
It's Christian Bale. Outside of that, this looks like one of those storylines that I've seen done about 400 times, and I'm very interested in seeing the movie. It's getting rave reviews, so obviously the performances are probably powerful, and I do want to see it because of the actors involved. But it's a story that I've seen 20 times. Let's go save your brother, and we're dealing with a veteran. Okay, we got it. So I will check it out. I just don't know if it's worth paying to check out. I don't know. I'm hoping the old boy's here by the time this thing comes out.
It reminded me of like Christian Bale is like, you know what? I did that movie The Fighter. I want to be on the other side. This one, like you said, the story is unoriginal, but this is one of those trailers that if you go into it, have not heard anything about it, you go, oh, that person's in it. Oh, that person's in it too. So the great cast. It looks interesting, but like you said, it looks like it's about the actors, not about the story.
I would have to agree with you. I think this one's more the performances and less, the originality of the story. So if they can carry out performances like we know that they can, then I think that's probably going to be a winner. But let's go ahead and settle it out. Of these three films opening December 6th, The Last Days of Mars, or Last Days on Mars, Inside Llewyn Davis, and Out of the Furnace, which one are you guys most likely to go check out, Brian?
Out of the Furnace.
Scotty?
Out of the Furnace.
And Aaron?
I'm probably going to lean toward Out of the Furnace. If I had to pick out of these three, I'd rather just not pick.
You'd rather just go see Catching Fire again?
I probably would, yep.
Out of the Furnace, definitely, though, for me, more than likely, it's a rental and not a theater viewing. Because, I probably will go see Catching Fire again.
All right, well, you can listen and subscribe to us on iTunes or Stitcher Radio app. Give us a thumbs up if you do, or through our RSS feed at thehollywoodoutsiders.com. There's a new episode every Thursday.
What's this movie?
Each week we play ours or a listener-suggested clip from a movie. And if you think you know what the clip is, email us at feedback@thehollywoodoutsiders.com. Tweet us or Facebook us the answer. Next week we'll give you a proper ho shout-out. Last week's answer was Justin's pick, and it was Willow. And this is officially the most wrong answers we've got. For any...
Yay!
Yay! Really? That makes you feel good.
You're proud of that?
Well, I got a record.
Oh, there you go. Woohoo! Yep, we got more wrong answers for this one than anything. But those that got it correct: Sue S., David McGrath, Jordan Mueller, Gringo Sag, Chuck Anderson, and every time I see it, I'm like, hello, Mr. Anderson. Doug Clayton, and I already said Sue S.
What were some of the wrong guesses?
I'm not going to say that because I don't want to make people feel bad. So they weren't correct.
What were they?
No. So this week it is Aaron's turn, which is me. So if you think you know what this is, email us at feedback@thehollywoodoutsiders.com. This clip is because I'm feeling like a little bit of the Christmas spirit. So here you go. Here's your clip.
Oh, no.
You and my wife have a lot in common. You both think you have some right to life working out the way you want it to, and if it doesn't, you get to act any way you want. Problem with that is someone still has to be responsible. I'd love to run around taking classes and playing with my inner selfness. I'd love the freedom to be a pissed-off criminal without any responsibility, except I don't have the time. But you don't see me with a gun. You don't see me sleeping with someone else. You think my life turned out the way I wanted because I live in this house. You think every time I look in the mirror, I shout, gee, I'm glad I'm me, and not some 19-year-old billionaire rock star with the body of an athlete and a 24-hour erection? No, I don't. So just excuse the shit out of me.
Okay, if you think you know what that clip was, then make sure to email us. It was definitely my version of Christmas. So, coming soon to DVD on December 3rd, there's a movie called Rise of the Fellowship. I also did an interview with filmmakers, which you can find on the site, or if you're on iTunes, just find the last episode. What it's about. Randy Dooley is a loser. He works in a game store, plays way too much Lord of the Rings online, and is constantly bullied by his brother and the jocks at his high school. When he hears about a Lord of the Rings online gaming competition, he grabs his 3 best friends and heads for Orlando to compete. Along the way, he's chased by a mysterious figure, stalked by a creepy kid with a voice issue, and also runs into a hippie commune leader who looks an awful lot like a groovy Gandalf. It's a true story. The entire movie is kind of an independent fanboy-style film for Lord of the Rings and Tolkien fans. Did I say it right? I originally was going to ask Justin, but apparently he didn't bother seeing it. So, Brian,
Nope.
What did you? How did they handle your Precious?
I thought this was kind of a cool concept here. Kind of do the fanboy type movie. They really kind of almost recreate a number of scenes from the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It was mildly entertaining. I don't want to be too sound too negative with this. It was one of my main issues I think I had with it was the acting. There was some really over the top acting from some of the secondary kind of background characters. Mm-hmm. It was just bad, just really over the top.
Yeah,
and
I thought the acting was good from the leads. Justin Moe played Randall, and Emma Ernest as Stacy, who I actually really liked her.
She was yeah, she was really good.
She was really good. Those two I liked quite a bit. It was the other two of the foursome, Squirrely, and the other kid. Those two I thought were way over the top.
Yeah, Squirrely was over the top. I actually liked him though. I didn't. I still haven't figured out the kid with the voice issue.
The kid that's supposed to be like a little Gollum.
Yeah, right. I didn't want to ruin that. I just didn't get why he was who he was. Nobody walks around like that, like he's Gollum and climbing up poles and speaking in my precious. I'm sorry. That. I don't care how big of a fanboy you are. You don't do that.
It's fair enough. The one I did really like, Wolf Sherrill as Melvin. He's the hippie commune leader as he's almost like a mixture of Gandalf and Aragorn. I mean, fantastic. I love that guy. That's the one guy I loved. Put that dude in his own movie, and I would watch that all day long.
That's a bit strong, but he was.
The guy, man. I loved him.
He did have some kind of hippie swag going on, so it was. He was kind of funny in his peace and love and all that stuff.
I just liked him. I don't know why. I will say it's not a big budget movie. It's very much an independent movie. I think it looks better than what it is. Probably the things that did impress me, director Ron Newcomb had several very stylistic shots, especially the ones where he pays homage to the Rings films. Those actually impressed me. Especially for a small independent film, I thought they were very well done.
Yeah, I liked how they in some of the scenes where they were online, they would kind of flip back and forth to the characters. They made it almost look like a comic book, and the screen would kind of flip and kind of rotate around, and maybe stack the shots of all 4 of them on at one time, and then kind of rotate around. It was all these different angles on who was talking at at any given point. That was real creative. I like that was a nice touch. Kind of had a comic book feel about it.
Okay, so what's your verdict overall?
It was a good effort. I just really, honestly, I feel like it kind of fell short in the entertaining section. So I'll give it about a 5.5.
Okay, I think it's a pretty standard flick. It's definitely tailored towards Rings fans and gamers with some fun scenes, the direction, and I really like Wolf Sherrill as Melvin. That performance raised it up for me. If $10 is the full price of admission, this one's worth $6. And I really like some of the stylistic choices. Some of the shots I thought were really well done. So it's something to check out. DVD and Blu-ray, Scotty.
Okay, we're looking for releases on December 3rd. First up is The Wolverine, which say
that correctly.
The fucking Wolverine.
The fucking Wolverine.
I don't believe that's the title of the movie.
That is officially the title.
Is The Wolverine.
That's why we have an explicit tag on our podcast so we can say that.
We reviewed it on episode 103, where Justin gave it an 8 out of 10, I gave it a 7 out of 10, and Aaron gave it a 9 out of 10.
Damn right I did.
The fucking Smurfs 2.
That fits too.
Cue the Justin sigh, which none of us saw, probably for good reason. The Mortal Instruments, City of Bones, which Justin did check out for us, and he reviewed on episode 107, where he gave it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I jumped on that grenade for you.
I appreciate it.
And it was the fucking Mortal Instruments. City of fucking Bones.
Drinking Buddies. This is a comedy with Olivia Wilde. It's about 2 brewery employees who have significant others, but they spend their workday flirting with each other while drinking beer, which potentially leads to disaster. Lastly, we've got a movie called All the Boys Love Mandy Lane, which is interesting because I looked this up, and this movie came out in 2006, and is only now getting a DVD release. Apparently it's a cult film that...
It's been avoiding release for a while. I don't know what the reasons are, but hey.
It's a horror flick about a girl that apparently got hot over the summer, and
doesn't it have Amber Heard?
That's one of her first movies.
So... And with that, we'll pass it over to Aaron, who is going to be recasting the classics for us this week. This is where once every few weeks or so, one of us HOs gives to another HO a classic movie with the task of recasting that movie with modern-day actors. This week, Aaron was given the task of casting the movie Ghost, and he is going to be recasting Sam, Molly, Carl, and Oda Mae Brown. Aaron?
You ready? You ready, Justin? Here I am.
I'm ready to hear your Swayze.
I'm going to recast the classics. I will start with Carl.
Villain.
Carl, what's that?
Was he the villain?
He was the villainish guy. Originally, I was going to go with Josh Brolin because I thought, I would prefer to have somebody a little bit more dangerous. But in the original Ghost, Carl was kind of a sweet but spineless bad guy. He wasn't dangerous looking. He was, and that's kind of what made him stand out from other villains because he never really seemed very dangerous, but he was a really bad guy. I picked Chris Evans. I think Chris Evans is a sweet, interesting guy, and I think he has a dark side. If you've seen Puncture, it's a really good movie. Somebody should check that out once in a while. I think he could play that sweet part and also stretch himself a little bit into a panicky murderer. I really think that fits him. For Molly, I went with one of my trusted favorites, and that's Kate Winslet. She's just one of those actresses that, Demi Moore did a great job, but I thought she was a little too weepy for my liking. I wanted somebody that can act. So I went with Kate Winslet because she can weep, but she can act the hell out of a movie. So I want her.
Even her tears act.
Even her tears are dramatic. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to do Oda Mae Brown last. For Sam, I'm going with who I think has reinvented himself and now I think deserves to be back in a movie like this, and that's Matthew McConaughey. I think he's got swagger, he's got charm, he's got the acting chops, which, 2-3 years ago I would not have said that because he's definitely proved me wrong, and I think he's earned another shot. I think he could add a little bit of dramatic heft to the movie too.
Do you think he should be in Roadhouse?
I definitely think he could.
You think he could rip a throat out?
Oh hell yeah, he could. He could be nice until it's time to not be nice. Oda Mae Brown. Now, I could go the stereotypical route that the original character was. Even though Whoopi won an Oscar, I thought it was, hey, black women shrieking. That's kind of what I got out of it. I went a different route. I picked Jason Mantzoukas. That's who I want. I want Rafi from The League. That's who I picked because I think he's actually a very smart guy. If you ever listen, they have actually a podcast. How did this get made? He's a very smart guy. He can play serious moments, and that character is so out there and wacky. I would just love to see him work with this campus.
That's a really good call, actually.
He would be bonkers.
He would, and
bonkers,
you would never see it coming because he would just do stuff that is so off the wall, and that's what I want to see.
Huh. Interesting. All right. I approve that cast.
Oh, well,
we have an older couple.
Well, I mean, closer to death. So I'm going to hand it to Scott in 2 weeks in honor of the holidays. And because you bitches love this thing, I want you to recast A Christmas Story.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I want you to recast Mother Parker, Old Man Parker, Ralphie as an adult, the narrator, and Ralphie himself.
Oh, okay.
You ready? You got it?
Lord.
Yep. Good luck.
Which one's going to be Cumberbatch? The narrator, yes.
Mother Parker. Mother Parker. All right, now let's go to From the Outside In, where this week we're talking Man Against the Machine, with the Hunger Games series being yet another juggernaut. once again, there is proof in the pudding that people love their man against the system flicks. One guy, one gal, one group, whatever, against all odds versus that system that is corrupt, determined to bring them down. Matrix, Terminator, there's 100 series that have had these analogies. What is it about fighting the system that appeals to us? Whoever wants to go first, go first.
Well, I think Americans in general are obsessed with not being oppressed. I think that there's the mentality if you're not going to take anything away from me kind of thing, and
Being kept down.
right, being kept down, and so these movies just kind of fuel that a little bit. I think people in general, just like seeing movies where people that are quote above them, whether you're talking status or money or power, anything, they like to see bad things happen to people that are that are higher than them, whether it be them oppressing them or not. I think people just like not being looked down on.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole thing about as a human being in this world, we constantly feel like we're being, oppressed by somebody, whether it's a corporation or a legal system or the government that, rules over us. It always feels so monolithic and something that you can't overcome. That but it's the whole Davy and Goliath shit. That's a claymation cartoon. David and Goliath kind of a situation where it's the little man against the seemingly impossible foe, and that's why it's kind of an evergreen type of story to tell, and we see it quite often. We like to see the underdog succeed.
Part of making a movie appealing, though, is the hero has to go through a number of trials, tribulations, whatever. It kind of has to go against some sort of villain where the bad guy gets bigger and bigger, so to speak. So if it turns out to be, a giant corporation, then it's hard to get much bigger than that. So corporation or giant computer running things or an alien race that's being, controlled by the government or something. Who knows? But
well, the aliens are controlling the government, and the government's fucking us over.
Oh, that makes sense. Damn it. Now it's all coming together.
It's twice the dystopian.
that's it.
That's bi-dystopian.
And it's been going on for a long time. I think
Bistopian.
it's bistopian.
That's right, dystopian.
Did we just make up a word?
I think
so. We should copyright that.
Trademark it. I think people just don't trust the government or corporations or anything of that nature. Anything that's bigger than them and they can't get a handle of, they just don't trust it. And therefore, they're always trying to bring it down. Yeah.
Well, we shouldn't. I mean, to be fully honest, who really does have 100% complete faith in the, in the government that rules over them? Nobody. And why? Because we really shouldn't. I mean, a government is made up of people, but they're not. Their best interests are not always the interests of the people.
No, power corrupts, sir.
It always does.
Have you guys ever found yourself rooting for the system when you're watching one of these movies where you're like, man, the system's right on this one? Like, you understood why they were keeping the man down?
I had one. It's a weird one, but one of my favorite movies is The Truman Show.
Okay.
Not your typical man
I
versus...
would not have thought of that as dystopian, but it is kind of, yeah.
It kind of is, because the guy that Ed Harris played, that I think his name was Christoph in the film,
Yeah.
his whole idea was that he was trying to keep Truman in the world, not necessarily for TV ratings, that kind of thing, because he knew how jacked up the world was, and he had created a more or less perfect world for Truman and could not fathom why anyone would want to leave that to go out into the real world. So from that aspect, I could kind of see why he wanted to do that and why he'd want to keep someone safe and protected, because he sheltered him like he was his own kid, so to speak.
That's a good way to look at it, Scott. Look at that.
Yeah, good call.
He
I
brought
couldn't think
interest
of
in.
any.
I couldn't either.
Because we all hate the government, and Scott's all trying to be optimistic and stuff. Come
Don't
on,
say that
guys.
too often. We make it, the NSA might look at us a little more than they already do.
Yeah, they're already listening to this podcast.
We'll be on a list.
Bomb threat. Bomb threat.
Terrorists.
Terrorists win. Magic bullet. Oh, man. So what is the... Well, I guess this is one that's not on your format, but when you guys watch these kind of movies, What are you hoping for ultimately? Do you ultimately hope the guy takes down the government, or just that he becomes a symbol that makes the people rise up? Like, do you want the government to fall, or do you just want the people to stand up and make the government pull back some? You know what I'm saying?
Well, it depends what they're struggling against. If it's, if it's some kind of alien regime or, the machines, then yeah, you want to see them completely overthrown. If it's something more like a government, maybe you want the government to perhaps have the hero take it over or show them the light or become a helpful cog in the system, I suppose. But for me, it depends on who they're struggling against.
I think for
me,
with
the government aspect of it, it's usually, some sort of senator, governor, or something like that that's got a vendetta against the hero of the story. So it's usually that guy gets the script flipped on him, so to speak, and he's found out and ousted. So it's usually not the whole government coming down. It's just usually one figurehead.
And you know what I found that was really interesting was talking to people and asking them, hey, we're trying to get some ideas. Like, what kind of these movies, man against the system, stuff like that, do you like? And it was funny the differences people have in terms of how they perceive a guy versus the system kind of movie. Mm-hmm. If you talk to people that, like Justin, is primarily, he loves science fiction movies. So I'll bet most of his choices will be like Matrix and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. You talk to people that are very politically focused, like they're really big into government and politics and that sort of thing. Their choices are more stuff like where it's, like Brian said, senators and governors raining down on common folk. Everybody kind of has a different version of what they consider the system. Apparently, in Justin's world, it's giant robots, but that makes sense. It's going to happen. Skynet's there.
Giant evil robots.
Sorry, giant evil robots.
Right. Giant good robots, they wouldn't do that.
When do you ever see a movie?
Implies the evil, right?
I don't know. It depends. There's good robots.
When do you ever see
not
giant...
they're all not all Roombas. All right, that's the start. That's where they start getting you to accept it.
That's how they get in the house. Yeah,
that's right.
Then
next
they start
thing
doing AI, and they start becoming kids.
Next thing you know, we're all in a pod. I'm just saying.
All right, what do you guys think the worst example of this scenario is? One of these movies that had all kinds of potential, but just dropped the ball. Scott, why don't you go?
I could not think of one. This is where I
drew
a blank. So
wait, after you came up with Truman Show and you couldn't come up with something that sucked?
He blew his wad on that one.
Yeah,
he's like, my brain exploded.
It took all my 3 hours of prep to come up with that one.
How about you, Brian?
I was kind of drawing a blank on this one too. It's one of those things. It's like forest for the trees type of thing. There's so many, but you can't think of one.
Okay,
sorry, let you down this week.
Hey, that's all right.
I didn't have a worst example, but I did have an example that really underwhelmed me, and that's Dark City.
Really?
It could have been so much better, but I think my main problem with it is Rufus Sewell, who plays the hero of the movie.
I see what you're saying.
I just don't see him as a good guy. He's got a bad guy's face, and perhaps that's just me being, I don't know, close-minded about the guy, because he seems to usually play bad guys, but I never felt like I could connect with him. The people that he was struggling against, these bald aliens, they just, nothing about it worked the way that I wanted it to. And I think that it came out around the same time as The Matrix, and probably in comparison to that film, that's also why it tends to pale a bit. But a lot of people love Dark City, and I'm not saying it's a bad film, but for me, it just didn't work the way that I wanted it to. The who he was fighting against, I never really just glommed onto. He as a hero never inspired me, and the development of his ability to fight them, to me, it seemed all kind of a bit haphazard. And Kiefer Sutherland sucked at that film. I'm sorry.
He did, yeah. And I love Kiefer Sutherland, but he was not good in that movie. Mine, and I'm sorry, Justin, but it's Matrix Reloaded. It's just, and it's the same kind of thing where I don't think it's a bad movie. It just was not the movie I wanted, and it didn't live up to any of the expectations I had. It just wasn't a story that I think worked personally. And I know you loved it, and I'm not trying to pick on your movie. It's just, for me personally, it just did not.
You don't have to keep qualifying it.
Well, it sucked.
You're wrong, and you've been wrong so often and for so long.
The movie just sucked.
We're all used to it.
I probably like whatever Remix or the third one better than I like Reloaded. So
It's Revolution.
yeah, whatever it is. I
Remix.
I actually will never watch
Matrix the remix.
That could kind of work.
Drop the bass.
which I love the first one, but man, I just can't do it.
Oh, it's
So-
the best of this trilogy.
Well, that's cool. Your opinions are so flawed. What What are your favorites? What are your favorite these kinds of movies? Man Against the System. What are your favorites, Brian?
Ironically enough, Roadhouse.
Okay.
The whole city. I mean, he's basically against this whole town, really, with the exception of a few, 2 or 3 business owners. I mean, it's really him against the whole town. The Messenger, story of Joan of Arc
Yeah, good call.
with Mila Jovovich. I mean, she's basically going against everybody because God told her to.
It happens.
Equilibrium, to kind of go a little sci-fi there. Christian Bale's character is, he's part of the system and realizes, the system's kind of fucked up. So he's going to kind of buck it. And I don't know. It's there's probably a few more, but that's kind of about it for right now.
Justin, I know you're dying. Go ahead.
Well, no, actually, I like that he mentioned Equilibrium and the fact that Bale's character was once a part of that system. And I think that's sometimes the most interesting of the dystopian films, when someone from within the oppressive regime figures out just what they're a part of and then fights against it, as opposed to just some civilian outside of it. I find those to be quite interesting. But Equilibrium is a great one. One that we talked about earlier this year, Elysium, I think was a really good dystopian film about a system that had been rigged for the haves, leaving all the have-nots back on Earth to just, fight for the squalor. I enjoyed that one quite a bit. Dread, I thought, was a really fun one. If you want a good funny one, Demolition Man, I think, is a really funny dystopian kind of film. And one that maybe might not get mentioned, but I want to make sure that it does, is Serenity.
Yes.
That's all about, and Firefly is really all about a dystopian future where the independents are fighting against the inner core system and not exactly having a good go of it. But want to make sure that Serenity was mentioned.
They don't all have to be dystopian. You can apparently in Justin's version.
That's what I was wondering. Did I miss something in the notes there? We were going genre specific here.
I'm saying I'm claiming that Justin hears system and he's like fucking dystopian.
Well, when
That's
you're
what's gonna
talking
happen.
but when you're talking about The Hunger Games is a dystopian film, and most of the movies that have been mentioned, The Matrix, The Terminator, those are all dystopian films.
Wait to get to my
I thought
list.
that's what we were talking about.
Man against the system. So however you interpret it, it's really
Well, sure, exactly, but it's man against an oppressive regime, whether it's aliens or whether it's robots from the future. Or whether it's a government or like Alien, it's a corporation, it's a corporate entity. It's a hero's fight against this overwhelming enemy, and those are usually considered dystopian. It doesn't have to be science fiction to be dystopian, but quite a few of them are.
Scotty?
I'm surprised nobody mentioned V for Vendetta.
It's on my list, but I haven't got to me yet.
Is it? Number one,
It's off my list now.
It's a great movie, but the fact that Hugo Weaving can carry so much emotion in that movie without ever seeing his face is brilliant. And then that's one of those where you just want to stand up and cheer for the rebel, so to speak. Braveheart.
There you go. I like
Mel
Braveheart.
Gibson, before everybody started not liking him. Man,
I still like him. I don't care if he's bad shit crazy.
he just made
I just
you.
don't like him as a person.
Enemy of the State. It's kind of a
You
cheesy
son
movie.
of a bitch! It's one of my favorites. You stole it. Take it off my list. There we go.
That's a good movie. Just kind of fighting against a man. Really, I mean,
Anything with Gene Hackman is automatically awesome.
Yeah.
Except for Loose Cannon.
And my last one is my favorite movie of all time is Fight Club. That's more or less basically not necessarily against the man, so to speak, but fighting against what society wants you to be or expects you to be, kind of thing.
No, I see what you're saying.
And it's I love that movie anyway, so it was an easy pick for me. Those are mine. Sorry, I stole yours.
No, that's all right. You stole most of mine. I would say Escape from New York. That's one man against the world, basically, is the way I look at it. And, of course, it's my favorite character in films. L.A. Confidential is definitely one of my favorites. It's basically a small group of guys fighting against corruption in L.A. in the 40s, 50s, whatever. Loved it. One of my favorite movies that is... It's one of those movies that a lot of people don't get why I would like it, but it's Absolute Power. I know Brian's seen it. Brian, you've seen Absolute Power.
Clint Eastwood?
Yeah, it's Clint Eastwood as a thief who he witnesses the president accidentally murder somebody. And it's not high drama or anything, but it's just a fun movie. And I love watching it because it's basically, he's this old thief and he has to go against the president. And the president is frickin' Gene Hackman, which makes it awesome. Looper? I think Looper.
Oh, yeah.
Looper's a great new addition. Matrix, obviously, which we talked about. And The Pelican Brief is one of my favorites. Where
I was going to say, like any one of those books, the Firm, the Pelican Brief, any what was the one with Susan Sarandon?
Oh, the one with the kid in the car.
Yeah.
The Client?
The Client. There we go. God,
That's
Scott
it.
beat me. Shit. Yeah, but John Grisham books, definitely. But Pelican Brief is one where I read the book and I couldn't wait for the movie, and the movie actually did a good job. The Firm did not, in my opinion. So, those are
It
always...
had Gene Hackman.
It did have Gene Hackman. Wait, was the Gene Hackman? No, it was Tommy Lee Jones was in The Client. Oh, The Firm. Yeah, fuck. Son of a bitch. All right, well, The Firm was awesome. All right, some of our listeners, D.H. Cheney. I'd like to see bad guys get their comeuppance. Elysium, Equilibrium, The Matrix, obviously The Hunger Games are some of my favorites. Greg Swiger, Catching Fire and Other Dystopian Stories. There's that word again. Really act as surrogates for our own possible future. Sure, Katniss is starting a revolution against the Capitol, but it also serves to feel like I'm starting a revolution against the NSA, banks, etc. He wants to fight the man. And also, the best one is Enemy of the State. That one doesn't get nearly enough credit. That's really entertaining.
I'm
really
surprised that you guys like that one as much. I thought
I love that movie.
Was that a Tony Scott?
It was Tony Scott. So what's a lot of flash? Jordan Mueller is Children of Men under this category? Absolutely. Otherwise, A Scanner Darkly and Minority Report.
Oh, yeah.
Tom Cruise before he was couch bouncing. David McGrath. Does anyone remember Turk 182? Timothy Hutton versus the Man. I remember really liking it in the 80s. Haven't seen it in a while. Don't know how it's aged.
Yeah, I don't know how it holds up, but at the time I remember liking it.
Yeah.
Firefighter movie.
That was really good, but I guess, like he said, I do not know how that one holds up. So those are our picks, and thanks, guys, for yours. If you got any other ones or you want to suggest anything, be sure to email us at feedback@thehollywoodoutsider.com. We're going to wrap up the show. Remember, if you like us on Facebook.com/The Hollywood Outsider, we'll mention you on next week's show. Our most recent likes are Ron Newcomb. Well, that was nice of him since we interviewed him. And John Rourke Connors. I don't know if that's John Connor, but it's John Rourke Connors.
Better shoot him anyway.
Yeah.
I'm John Connor.
I wonder how many times he's heard that in his life. Poor guy. We're probably making that joke and he's hearing it going, yeah, I've never heard that, assholes. Now let's go to emails. Justin.
First one's from Gringo Sag. He says, favorite film from the 80s, but have to admit, and he's talking about Willow. Sorry. Favorite film from the 80s, but I have to admit, I had to look up Val Kilmer in IMDb to be sure. Billy Barty has a very recognizable voice, and I remember him in so many roles, calling for a little person, and I see in IMDb that he had an incredible career.
He did.
Speaking of Val Kilmer, it's too bad he had to grow up. Real Genius and Top Secret were both silly movies that I remember fondly from my high school years. Gringo Sag. I'm not a huge fan of Top Secret, but Real Genius is fantastic.
It really is. And I don't care what people say. That movie holds up for me. I can still watch it and laugh my ass off. This is God calling. Stop touching yourself.
I remember him like cutting ice cubes in the shape
For
of quarters.
Yep.
Yeah, liquid
nitrogen.
Yeah, liquid nitrogen.
dry ice or something
Right, yeah.
tube.
Yeah, that was awesome. And Brian?
Yeah, this is from Detroit Doug. He says, hey all, as I continue to be a constant listener, my appreciation for you all grows. Thanks for sharing what you're thankful for. It was brave, real, and endearing. Even Toky Grumpy Guy Brian's. Yeah, some bitch. Doug Lyman. He also did Go. I really dug that movie. I assume you saw it. If not, I recommend it. It's a fun ride to nowhere. Question: When I first saw Hobbit in theaters, 24 frames per second, IMAX 3D, I really didn't like the movie. It felt bloated, self-indulgent, and long. My wife and I, she never saw it and could care less. They redboxed it, and on the second viewing, I loved it. What were your initial thoughts on seeing The Hobbit, and on subsequent viewings, did it improve for you, and why? And he's not done. He says, did you hear? David Goyer is trying to bring The Sandman to cinema. Talk about an unfilmable property. As always, thanks for being cool and geeky. Looking forward to Thursday, Detroit Doug.
He's giving
Detroit Doug, before we get into his questions, we give out the nicknames around here. You don't nickname yourself. That's a man rule.
All right.
But, all right, we'll get to your questions.
Go, I think we've all seen Go. Timothy Olyphant, fantastic in that movie.
Never saw it.
You never saw Go?
Never saw
Giovanni
it.
Ribisi.
Oh,
what was it? Omar Epps?
I believe so, yeah. There's just so many great performances.
Claire Danes. Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, well, y'all should. Sarah Polley was great.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And Timothy Olyphant, seriously, if you watch Justified, you're a fan of Justified, watch Go, because his performance in that is awesome. In terms of The Hobbit, I liked it. I think I gave it an 8 when it first came out. In my opinion, it hasn't really changed one way or the other. I will say that I saw it in high frame rate, and I thought that sucked. So,
thank God that hasn't become a thing.
So awful. It's just not something that works. It really isn't. Justin saw the extended edition. He really liked even more Hobbit.
Yeah, you get more singing.
I did think it was a little too long. Still think it's a little too long. We actually watched it not too long ago because the new one's coming out. It's one of those movies where I think Jackson could have trimmed about 20 minutes off it. I definitely don't really want to see any more added to it. I do want to see the extended version just for the songs. But that's really it. The Sandman thing, I agree. I think it's hard to film that. But.
No. I think with today's techniques and technologies, nothing is unfilmable. It's just about getting the proper talent behind the camera and in front of it.
You think Gordon?
And for the record, anybody who doesn't know, the Sandman is a DC Comics character.
Yeah, we're not talking about Marvel's Spider-Man villain. It's a different.
No, this is all goth before goth was goth.
Super
I don't
goth.
know. Do you think they should get Johnny Depp? Maybe he could play the Sandman.
He does everything else. Might as well.
Might as well.
Maybe you could put him on horseback. There we go. Give him a little more Tonto. Scotty?
Well, I'll apologize to Sue in advance that I am reading your email instead of Brian, because I know you love to hear his sultry voice reading your words. But she is responding to the What's This Movie clip.
Read it like him.
Do it slow and soft.
Willow.
That wasn't like Brian, but it still made
That was kind of sexy.
it was kind of sexy, actually, yeah.
I'm aroused.
I know. Aren't we all?
The wee little voices give it away.
Christ. got a subtle
Whoa,
direction.
slower.
The wee little voices gave it away. If
You're going to rope somebody.
if you want to take this shit to the new level, y'all should read the lines yourselves. Wouldn't that be fun? Probably never would have got this one if Brian had tackled the role of Willow Ufgood.
Ufgood.
What do you say? I'm thankful for Steve Buscemi. Sue.
I actually love the idea, and then Justin said another podcast does it. Yeah, Brian, sorry, slow clap. There we go. Nice job there, Southern. You sounded a little rodeo for me. But
Yeah. I can't do an Irish accent, but I can do a Southern drawl apparently.
The voices gave away.
The wee little voices.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go listen to that podcast and hear how they do it, and then if I can think of a way to do it that's not a copy of their show, then we'll do it.
You know,
'Cause I like the idea. I just don't want to be mimicking anything.
You know what I think we could do with a recasting the classics is switch that around and take a modern movie, a fresh intellectual property, and act as if the movie were made a long time ago, and what older actors
with
would we
old
put in
people,
it?
with dead people.
Like when they were in their prime.
Oh, okay. You guys write in and see if you like that. If you don't worry. Scott's used to being told he's wrong.
Yep.
So
I'm married.
Remember, you can stay through the credits for outtakes if there are any. TheHollywoodOutsider.com or tweet us at H_outsider. Facebook.com/The Hollywood Outsider. Leave us a message or text us at 818-814-6426. Email us at feedback@thehollywoodoutsider.com. Listen and subscribe for free on iTunes, your Stitcher Radio app. Give us a thumbs up if you do, or through our RSS feed. Justin, tell us about your new book.
Well, it's a new horror novel called Stillwater that I wrote and edited together. Griffinwood Press, who published Haywire, and whom I'm soon to be writing Titan's Rise for, which is a prequel to Haywire, has picked it up. And it's a horror novel. It takes place in our modern-day world in a fictional town in West Virginia where the people are coal mining out of a mountain and unknowingly unleash an ancient evil that has to be stopped.
When's it going to come out? Any idea yet?
No idea yet. We're just starting the editing process for it. I know it'll be 2014, but whether it's middle or end of the year, I really don't know, because I've also got another book coming out next year with Crescent Moon, which is the sequel to A Minor Magic called A Broken Magic. So I probably try and schedule so that they're not cannibalizing each other's sales. But I got to say, I'm really excited for Stillwater. I had never written horror before. I'm a huge reader of it, and I love the films. But I've never really tried to write a long-form story, and thoroughly enjoyed it, and I look forward to doing it again. I actually think horror may be more my genre than science fiction.
Please tell me there's a Fever Dog reference somewhere in the book.
No, I didn't. I thought about it, but I just couldn't find a way to put that in there. But Stillwater, the name of the town is Stillwater, and so that's also if you guys are familiar with Silent Hill, either the films or the games, think of Silent Hill meets coal mining.
It's actually very good. I've read it, so it's very good.
Thank you.
And I would just say bullshit. I would say, it's interesting, but it was very good. If I think any book is going to catapult you, I think that's the one, honestly.
We'll see.
Yep. And I don't like giving you compliments because your fucking head is so goddamn big. Brian Williams, I know you don't have any books, but I hope you have a wonderful holiday.
Thanks, you too.
All right. It was good talking to you. He's like, I'm ready to leave. Scotty Clark.
Hey, before I say goodbye, I just want to ask you guys, would one of you please see About Time? Yeah. I love that movie, and I really want to hear somebody else's opinion on it.
Yeah, write in if you've seen it, or leave us a voicemail. Mm-hmm. Scott would love to hear about it.
Yeah.
If it's still in a theater nearby this weekend while everybody else is out shopping, I'll give it a watch.
I will be surprised.
We don't trust Justin will actually do that. So
no, you should take that with a grain of salt. About the size of a Buick.
Okay, guys. Well, we're going to get out of here. So remember, the next time you go to a theater, buy popcorn.
And do it through our Amazon link. No, it's Llewyn.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Llewyn.
Right.
It doesn't pronounce that way in the trailer.
It sounds like y'all are adding a few letters in there.
Is there?
It's Llewyn.
Is it Llewyn?
Oh, sorry.
Fuck.
I was looking at something else.
Look at that. Justin's jumping on the stupid Aaron bandwagon.
Yeah,
sorry.
Sure we'll delete that
I make
shit.
other people dumber.
Your stupidity is contagious.
Scott knows.
There's no sacred days off anymore, so to speak.
So you're not angry and bitter?
I'm off, so I don't give a fuck. I mean, Walmart's pretty much got a reputation for treating their employees like shit anyway, so it's just one more thing to put it on, in their column.
I think it's in the handbook, actually.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking to be treated fairly, please do not work here. Sign here.
Well, they got to do food drives for their own employees. You pay them so shitty.
That was fucked up.
That was kind of fucked up.
That's fucked up.
You got to say it with a southern accent.
I
whooped.
I can't say shit with a southern accent. Whipped.
It's not
What
two
the
syllables.
fuck was that?
It was
There's always going to be people working shitty jobs.
Yeah, there's always going to.
That's how
and
it
it's not
works.
necessarily shitty jobs. There's a lot of retail jobs that aren't shitty. There's a lot of management in retail. And there's a lot of, like Brian is a commission salesperson. They can make a lot of money if sales are good. And there's management and everything else. The idea that retail just means a shitty job, it really irritates me.
Well, right. But
Thanks, Scott.
That was Aaron, actually. But that was me.
No, yeah, but you were defending the retail job. He called it shitty.
Oh. Yeah,
No,
go ahead. Talk to Brian now.
No,
Mr. Don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Good job, you fucking cock knocker.
And plus, you haven't had to work a holiday in like 10 years. You worked at the bank, and now you're a teacher.
Yeah.
It's like you look for jobs that you don't have to work holidays. God, teaching's awesome.
Can't do that.
Can you
I'll
even
probably
call
be in-
teaching really a job? Sounds like a hobby.
You can call writing a job.
I work hard.
He got you. He did get you.
I cannot wait to be rich and famous. So I can just fucking blow you guys off and
Well, we'll let
never
you blow
talk
me.
to you again.
You totally will, too, won't you, you asshole?
Oh, man.
I'll use Stillwater toilet paper.
As long as you bought it, I don't give a fuck.
My wife comes in. Why aren't you using the Charmin? I still got minor magic left.
I still got pages.
Hang on, my ass is feeling a little haywire.